When you plan to visit Singapore, you should know the prohibited items that cannot be brought into the city centre, such as gun, ammunition, explosive and chewing gum. Wait, chewing gum? Chewing gum is one of the contrabands in Singapore, prohibited for import and public consumption. And why does the chewing gum receive a prohibition status as if it's like a illegal items like gun, drugs and explosive? Let's take a walk in the random areas in Singapore and understanding of why chewing gum is banned in the fine city. In the 20th century, chewing gum habit associated with American culture popularized with Hollywood films. Leading brands of chewing gum globally marketed its product as a modern lifestyle and helping the oral hygiene. In the 1920s, to reduce the dependency of chicle rubber imported from the Americas, the locally sourced rubber called jelutong tree was used as a base ingredient to make chewing gum in Malaya. By 1969, there were 2 chewing gum factories opened in Singapore. However, the factories soon moved out from Singapore to other countries in order to give room to more higher value manufacturing companies. And thus, chewing gum was really trendy in the 60s and 70s together with introduction of American cultures in films such as smoking, pop dancing and also communal racism. And to improve the quality of life for millions of people living in such a small nation state, Singapore has developed a series of new townships to replace overcrowded kampong, squatting area and also shop houses in the downtown area. The new urban environment is so different from the free will life, carefree life in kampong where the laws and regulations need to be observed for mutual benefit in these brand new flats. And that include cleanliness. Chewing gum is managed as cleaning the gum residue demanded costs such as water, soap, brushes, and time taken by the cleaner. It was reported that Housing and Development Board (HDB) spent about 150,000 Singaporean dollars to clean up the spitted chewing gum that littered all over Singapore, and that cost is from 1983. A time when a cup of coffee cost only for about 40 cents. As a nation state that rely on high-tech investment, financial sector and recently tourism industry, Singapore kept its cleanliness and tidiness in order to attract a high-value, deep-pocketed people from all over the world. The micromanagement control of the government caused Singapore gain a nickname of Fine City, where if a resident or tourist did not keep its cleanliness, they might get a fine. And not only use chewing gum to stick onto the pedestrian walk, spitted chewing gum also found stuck on public payphones, in mailbox and also in the flat leaf, in the buttons. Even places far away from daily social activities also being littered with the used chewing gum. For example, Kranji War Memorial. Chewing gum remained to be widely used and legal up to the 1980s despite the public debate on whether chewing gum should be discouraged or banned altogether or tolerated, because chewing gum is not really as bad as the smoking in public. The last straw on a camel's back, or should I say the last gum in the Lion City, is when it was reported that MRT train doors could not close properly due to chewing gum stuck on the train doors, causing delays and technical difficulties. And between July and August 1991 and afterwards, the government decided to ban the chewing gum altogether. Since the ban enforced on the 3rd of January 1992, any import of chewing gum was banned, and any contraband need to be declared, which is a similar procedure of someone brought up guns or ammunition, explosive to the border. Declare this thing too. Any person who dare to violate the chewing gum ban will be imposed a fine up to 2,000 Singaporean dollars, where the importers will face a fine of up to 10,000 Singaporean dollars, and the fine will increase if the offence was repeated. Sounds pretty harsh for a simple offence of just importing a flavoured gum, but do remember that Singapore spent ton of money to develop MRT system due to this small, sticky, stinky, dirty spit chewing gum stuck on the doors and seats and the platform of the MRT stations caused massive delays of the train, making the billion-dollar system on a financial burden simply because of a used chewing gum. And consider too the annoyances of gum stick on the public payphones and mailbox, pedestrian paths and many other places, including on my shoes. The public responses were mostly supportive with some voice opposition to this micromanagement of a nanny state. Yeah, fine state. Majority who supportive of the ban argued that the chewing gum ban improved the cleanliness of the city and most of the population are not regular chewing gum users anyway. It was found that by banning chewing gum, the street looked nicer and it cost less time and money for a cleaner to clean the streets and the buildings because chewing gum spit is really tough to remove and a hassle to clean. Consider that someone need to touch someone else's saliva. The ban of chewing gum do have an impact on the general cleanliness of the street and also on the trains. According to the Straits Times newspaper on 18th of March 1993, the number of reported chewing gum littering down from 525,000 cases in 1991 to only two cases in February 1993. MRT train operation experienced improvement of cleanliness and also time punctuality. It was reported that chewing gum littering also reduced in the lift, pavement and also playground areas. In addition to the improved cleanliness, the reduced number of chewing gum littering also reduced the cost of cleaning up the ugly and dirty chewing gum litter because of the reduced cost of soap, water and also the need of the pressure washer. But chewing gum is not totally banned in Singapore for an eternity. Chewing gum actually has been allowed with heavy restrictions since 2004. Pharmacies are allowed to sell chewing gum in limited quantities and with heavy regulation for therapeutic value. However, it was not the health sector or dentistry group that pushed the policy of allowing a dental chewing gum therapeutic to be imported to Singapore. It was the work of a US Congressman, Phil Crane, who was being part of negotiators of US-Singapore Free Trade Agreement. He threatened to delay or terminate the Free Trade Agreement altogether, the discussion between US and Singapore, if the chewing gum was not allowed to be imported. And perhaps coincidentally, Phil Crane is a congressman represented Chicago, which is the headquarters of the Wrigley's Chewing Gum Company. And thanks to free market, it was not the American chewing gum who won the chewing gum market in Singapore. In 2006, 2 years after the US-Singapore FTA was ratified, it was reported that most of the chewing gum imports came from Indonesia and also South Korea. And American therapeutic chewing gum import only value about $1,000 then, not even enough for a fancy room in a Marina Bay Sands. By 21st century, the younger generation, especially Gen Z, did not keen of opposing the ban of chewing gum in Singapore. And in convenience stores and supermarkets, there are chewy gummies like this, and sweet that is like a perfect replacement for the chewing gum as a filler in the mouth to keep the tongue and teeth busy. And confectionery brands like this such as Perfetti Van Malays, the brand Mentos, and Wrigley itself, yes, the chewing gum company, sell chewables and candies openly and legally in Singapore in supermarkets and also in convenience stores with one massive benefit. Chewable candies melt fully in the mouth and did not leave any gum to be spit out onto the street, or if they spit out accidentally, did not leave any ugly or dirty residue. By time the absence of chewing gum in Singapore is eventually not really missed, at least there were many things to munch. This and also banana. If you are in Singapore and you want chewing gum, you can cross the border to Johor Bahru, Malaysia and buy as many as you want, or you can visit a nearest pharmacist or dentist to get some sugar-free dental chewing gum therapeutic. The nearest replacement of chewing gum is a chewy candies like this, which is openly sold in Singapore and is completely legal. thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new about chewing gum and why it is banned in Singapore. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.